My name is Kyle, and thanks for letting me tell you my story. I had a great time growing up in Danville. Look at the skinny white kids in the room sitting next to you. That's exactly how I looked when I was a freshman. I loved the Danville area. You may even know my family, be my neighbor, or might have sat next to me at the Santa Ramon In and Out sometime. Today I'm 26 years old and I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. This doesn't mean I use drugs or drink alcohol today. It simply means that if I put a single drug or drink in my body, I cannot control my actions. Let me tell you how I got here. As a kid, I never thought I would ever do drugs. My family ingrained in me that drugs were bad and that I should never do them, that only criminals and kids who don't go to school do drugs. As a student at Charlotte Wood Middle School, I had lots of friends, had good grades, and played lots of sports. On the surface, life was good. Like a lot of teenagers, I just didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I felt out of place everywhere I went. The 3 years I spent at Charlotte Wood were filled with fear, loneliness, and frustration. I remember feeling this way when I was with a group of friends one day after school. It was a normal Friday afternoon, and a friend of mine brought over a pipe with some weed in it, and I decided to smoke weed for the first time. I smoked the pipe, inhaled, and as I blew the smoke out, my fear, loneliness, frustration all went away, and I felt happy. I smoked weed for lots of 8th grade, and then I started school at Santa Ramon High School. I was told that high school was supposed to be the best years of your life. As I got older, I began to get invited to parties that some upperclassmen were throwing, and it was there that I began to drink alcohol. Since I allowed myself to smoke weed and I never had any consequences, I thought it would be the same with drinking. Drinking helped me to fit in and connect with people. As my 4 years at Santa Ramon High went by, I drank more and more, and I also began to experience some consequences. I was suspended from school, was suspended from a few sports games, and our relationship with my parents became really broken. And like many high school students, my partying kept getting more and more extreme. During my junior year, I had a bad accident, and I was put on pain meds. Once again, the feeling that I got when I took those pills was amazing. Plus, they were legal. I healed and my accident pain went away, but I didn't want to let go of the comfort and the high that the pain pills brought me. It was too good to stop. I was now getting high almost every day. The same kid who once thought that he would never do drugs. I never knew that a hit of weed in 8th grade would lead to this. At this point in high school, all I cared about was taking more pills, hitting the pipe, and drinking to bring me comfort and help me fit in with people. As my senior year came to a close, I was accepted to Oregon State University. More than ever, I just wanted to party. I went off to college, and I was finally off my own with no rules or parents to obey. My next high came as I began to get into cocaine and heroin. Again, I didn't see many consequences. I wasn't in jail. I was able to keep relatively good grades in my classes, and I had friends. But as my sophomore year of college, I couldn't go more than a day without using drugs, and this was expensive. So I began to sell drugs, but just to my friends. And after a while, I didn't care who I sold to. As long as I was making enough money to get my drugs and get my fix for the day, I was happy. On the surface, I looked like a normal college kid, but many would have never guessed I was an addict and a dealer. But there were also others who I hurt and I betrayed. I managed to merely graduate college and I got a job down in LA. I had to get high before work just to get out of bed, and I continued to get high throughout the day. I wasn't using drugs to get high anymore. I was using them so I wouldn't get sick, and my body was physically dependent on them. Again, just like my schoolwork, my job became less important than me getting high. This skinny white kid from Danville was now getting myself into very dangerous positions with drug dealers, gang members, and people that most of society doesn't ever run into. After being fired from my job, I wanted to move in with my parents back home in Danville. My parents wouldn't have me. It was then that I started to realize something very, very important. I was the problem. I had become exactly what I never wanted to be, what no one wants to be. I was a desperate drug addict living on the streets. I was homeless. I robbed, stole, I did whatever I needed to get my fix for that day. I had lost everything. My family, my friends, and most of all, I lost who I was. I was a shell of a human being who was being run by drugs. I was dying. How did I go from the Danville, Charlotte Wood kid who had every advantage in life, was on the good path with good parents, to someone addicted to drugs with now no family or friends? By the grace of God, I was able to get off the streets when my parents paid to send me to rehab, and I was ready. I was in and out of rehabs for the next 4 years fighting to beat my temptations. As you can imagine, I had a lot of work to do on myself and on the same insecurities I had when I was in the 8th grade. Because I was both desperate and committed, I was able to get healthy. Friends, I'm one of the lucky ones who made it back from drug and alcohol addiction. Many do not make it back and wind up in jail, mental institutions, or they are dead. Today I do the work I need to do to stay sober. I have a life worth living for. Looking back now, part of me wishes I could go back in time to 8th grade Kyle and to tell him to never smoke weed that day. I wish I could tell him how addictive drugs and alcohol can be. Yet on the other hand, my story has become my life mission. I am alive today to tell my story and to help educate teenagers about the horrible dangers of drugs and alcohol. I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's your life to live and your story to create. I just hope you know how much you are loved. There are people who care about you. I am one of them. It's hard being a teenager, but instead of using substances to hide your pain and help you to fit in, I hope you find healthy ways of dealing with your emotions. Thanks for allowing me to tell you my story, and I'll see you in and out.